Hey viewers and friends, Andrew back again and welcome to another video. And for this video I am going to be showcasing or talking about and showing my top 10 slasher movies of all time. Now for those who aren't familiar with the slasher genre, basically a slasher consists of one killer targeting a group of people and killing them off one by one. Normally it involves teenagers getting killed off. Not all the time, but just in terms of a traditional slasher, it is one killer going around killing a bunch of teenagers off in different ways. So that's pretty much what a slasher movie is. Yeah, it's a pretty popular genre. I know a lot of people here on YouTube love slasher movies, so I've decided while it's Halloween month I'm going to showcase my top 10 slasher movies of all time. So there's some pretty common ones in here as well as some fairly underrated ones. So if you haven't seen any of these movies that I'm about to show, I highly recommend checking them out, please. And let's get into this video. So they're not really in any particular order, but here are my top 10. So the first one is the Texas Chainsaw Massacre: The Beginning. Now, this is definitely my favourite in the franchise. Yes, I prefer this a lot more to the original one. I just love the modern take of it. It's a prequel, so it sort of tells the backstory of Thomas Hewitt before he becomes Leatherface. And yeah, I just really enjoyed it. It's still got that gritty, grimy feel to it despite being a modern horror, and the standout character for me is definitely Sheriff Hoyt, or the uncle. I thought he was absolutely brilliant in this. So this is a really good prequel to the remake and definitely my favourite in the series. Okay, next up we have April Fool's Day. This is really underrated, and I definitely highly recommend it to anyone that's looking for a really fun slasher movie. As you can tell from the title, it's centered around April Fools. It's more of a prank style slasher movie. As you find out sort of towards the end, there's a great twist ending which I didn't see coming. But I don't think I've had as much fun with a slasher movie as I have with this. So definitely check this one out. This is the original from the 80s. Next we have Psycho. I'm sure everyone's seen this movie. If you haven't or you don't own it, please pick it up. This is pretty much essential for any horror collection, and it was one of the relatively first slasher movies that sort of really kick-started the genre. Now, it's really tame in terms of slashers nowadays, but still an absolute classic. Next we have another really underrated slasher movie, My Bloody Valentine. It definitely has its fan base, but I feel this movie definitely got pushed aside for the more popular series from the 80s like Halloween, Friday the 13th and Nightmare on Elm Street. I still think it's a really utter shame that this never took on a full franchise, because I thought it could have done pretty well. I love the character of Harry Warden. As you can see, there he is on the front. This is sort of different to other slasher movies, especially in terms of storyline and location. It's set in an old mining town, and most of the kills happen in the mine with, of course, the killer dressed up as a miner in the gas mask and overalls, and he uses a pickaxe for the kills, and of course it's centered around Valentine's Day. So if you haven't checked this one out, please do so. Next we have Tourist Trap, which again, this one is an underrated gem. It's really similar in terms of sort of characters and the overall storyline to something like the Texas Chainsaw Massacre. But this one's really good. It's definitely one of the most underrated, not only slashers, but horror movies that I've ever sort of come across. So please check this one out if you haven't. It's really creepy, and it sort of takes on a more supernatural element to your traditional slasher with the use of mannequins. That's all I'm going to say, but this one comes highly recommended. Next we have Child's Play. I've mentioned this movie several times before. It was the very first horror movie that I ever saw. Again, this one is fairly tame in terms of the slasher genre, but I do definitely classify it as a slasher, and a really classic one at that. Next one is A Nightmare on Elm Street. Again, one of the more popular ones. I'm sure everyone's seen it. I don't really need to talk too much about it, except that I absolutely love the unique storyline and theme they took with this around the whole dream versus reality. Really, really well done. Next we have Friday the 13th, Part 6, Jason Lives. I picked this one out of the series. Overall, I'm a big fan of the Friday the 13th franchise. It's a fantastic slasher franchise, well worth checking out all the movies. However, this to me is the standout of the series and my personal favourite. Next is The Burning. To me, this represents everything that makes a slasher great. So again, if you haven't checked this one out, I'd highly recommend doing so. This is another one-off movie, pretty similar to Friday the 13th, except a lot more gorier. So if you haven't checked this one out, I'd definitely recommend it. And if you're looking to get into the slasher genre, this is the perfect one to begin with. To me, this represents, as I said, everything great about a slasher movie. And fantastic gore as well. And of course we have Halloween. This is going to be no surprise to people. This is my favourite horror movie of all time, and it definitely kick-started the slasher genre from the late 70s. It came out in 1978. So it definitely kick-started it, I think, and yeah, just an all-round amazing movie. Again, fairly tame to a lot of other slashers, especially from the 80s, especially in terms of gore use and kills. It's really simplistic, but that's what I love about this movie. There's not a high body count or a extreme use of gore, yet it's still really, really effective. Fantastic soundtrack. Probably the best thing about this movie is the soundtrack. I absolutely love it. And of course, Michael Myers. So that's it, guys, for my top 10 slasher list. I hope you've enjoyed it, and as I said, if you haven't seen any of these movies that I've mentioned, or I'm sure you've seen some of them, but if there's any that I've mentioned that you haven't seen, I highly, highly recommend checking them out. And I'd be really interested in getting some video responses for this. So if you've got some time, I'd really appreciate it if you took the time to post your top 10 slasher flicks, or they don't need to be top 10, they can be top 5, or if you want to go all out, top 20. But yeah, just get some video responses happening or some comments, and thanks a lot for watching.